Originally, it was part of a much larger piece of work, which was an electronic soundtrack for an industrial promotional video. I took a tiny section from the middle of this electronic piece and originally used it as an intro for live performances with my old band, Dirty Secrets. And Dirty Secrets was a band that performed a couple of the early Daughters Guild songs back in the early 90s. I'm very proud to have my dad playing on there. He's actually the first thing you hear on the album. You can hear his voice as Dr. Heisenberg, and you can hear his clarinet, his alto sax, and his tenor sax throughout the piece. Guthrie Govan is also playing a multitude of guitar layers. So there's a whole guitar orchestra going on in the song. The Mystic Technocracy was one of the first 3 songs that I wrote for this project, the other 2 being Legion of Aliens and a 3-movement suite called Explorers, which will appear only in Season 5, so you're going to have to wait quite a bit for that one. It's actually based on a very simple idea that will keep repeating itself throughout the album. I came up with this very simple 3-note riff. Mystic Technocracy is also interesting because it's split in 3 different sections. There is the first section with the intro, and there's a regular song format with verse, pre-chorus, and chorus. But then the instrumental part kicks in the middle, and there's a little atmospheric interlude with the spacey keyboard sounds and an amazing drum solo by Greg Bissonette. And then that evolves into a section that keeps building up with one instrument after another coming in. And there is this large musical explosion at the end, which sounds like a live band finishing a song. Darwin's Tears. This is the song that I'm the most proud of on the album. It's very recent. It was written and finished just before I recorded it 2 years ago. It's also the song that we selected for the upcoming video.
I just want to live another day. You know that cannot be. Is this the end?
One thing that's very interesting about Darwin's Tears is that the music is deceptively simple. The main musical idea behind Darwin's Tears is a chord progression which is taken directly from an ancient dance form from the Renaissance and Baroque period called La Follia in Italian and Spanish, or Les Folies d'Espagne in French. All the instrumental parts, all the choruses are based on that. Another feature that makes the music complex is a technique that I used that is called telescopic development. And this technique basically means that you take a part of the song and every time you repeat it, it's different and longer. The coda of the song is a really great build-up. There are more and more parts developing, more and more vocal lines overlapping, and it builds to quite a nice climax. Twilight of the Gods was written originally to try and not really imitate, but take inspiration from classic four-movement suites from the old days. So things like Close to the Edge or Carnival 9. Twilight of the Gods' four movements are very different from each other, but they're all interconnected. There are links to each other. First movement is called Norse Cosmogony Part 1. And it is basically an extensive piano piece. It was recorded on a real piano. My Blüthner grand piano, which is upstairs. And this is a very, very special piano. First of all, it's about 100 years old. And it uses a unique system that only the brand Blüthner has. It has 4 strings on the right part of the keyboard instead of the usual 3, with a 4th string resonating without being touched by the little hammers that the pianos use to make sounds. And this gives a whole other resonance and brilliance to the piano tone that no other piano can match. Now the piano part is quite complex actually. It's very slow and atmospheric. The left hand basically plays 4th chords, which is what Emerson did on Tarkus. But the right hand is playing bluesy, jazzy melodies. At the end of the first movement, Göran Edman's voice comes in with a very beautiful epic part. That part is in complete contrast with part 1. It's one of the most metal sounding songs on the album. It's very fast and aggressive and shares a lot of the harmonic content and song structure of the first part. These two parts are linked together quite tightly. Then we move on to part 3, Judeo-Christian Cosmogony, which is the most complex movement in the suite. Here there's a variety of influences and techniques that I have used. It starts out very heavy with a synthesizer sequence in dialogue with a distorted guitar. Then when the vocals come in, it mellows out and goes into this odd meter format. I think it's in 7/4. This leads to another part which is contrasting again. This was not intentional, but it really resembles Space Oddity by David Bowie, the general mood and atmosphere, the lush strings and all that. Now at some point there's a guitar solo that comes in with a more energetic part. And then the song concludes with a very long and drawn out vamp. This was a part that was designed on purpose for live playing. It's just based on 2 simple chords, 4 and 1, 4 and 1, 4 and 1, which is an endless repetition of the plagal cadence, which is what is used in religious music, what they call the Amen cadence. The voices keep coming, they keep repeating the same thing in different ways, and there are at least 4, 5, or 6, I can't even remember, overdubs of different voices just coming in and adding to the arrangement. Now the climax is a very Emerson-like Hammond piece. It's quite furious in its playing. The Divine Comedy was originally conceived as a sort of imitation of Jean-Michel Jarre music. And you can still hear that in the massive amounts of arpeggiators and sequences that are floating around. It turned into a completely different piece of music, and the way it's recorded now, there is still a genre influence in the synthesizers, but basically what it is a gospel piece. And you've got this really beautiful gospel arrangement with backing vocals. At first are humming, then they're singing a bit louder. The lead vocals are building and building and building, and in a way it's built on minimalism. So it's always the same sequence of chords, repeating over and over and over again, but each time the arrangement is different. And each time the vocal harmonies are larger and more complex. So it really builds up to a nice peak that gets resolved with a pretty aggressive instrumental part. And then that fades out as well, and we return to the initial piano motif.